Hey everyone, ShapeProTuber here and welcome back to another video. A couple weeks ago I posted on Instagram a clip that I made for Monster Energy. It was a very simple B-roll sequence that I made using only 2 shots. And in this video, I'm going to teach you guys how I did it and guide you through the editing process, kind of like an editing walkthrough of the actual project. So for all those who didn't see the final ad or homemade commercial that I made, I'll play it on screen right now. So now let's hop into Vegas Pro 17 and I am going to walk you guys through how I did it. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see the timeline here and you guys can see the Sony Vegas interface. And basically what I'm going to be doing is going through the footage or going through the clip piece by piece and dissecting how I edited it, what editing techniques that I use, and how everything was composited. So if we take a look at the first 2 seconds of the clip, we can see that they're making use of 2 liquid transition effects that I use constantly throughout the video. So I'm playing the liquid transition pack on screen now, and this is kind of what I've been working with throughout the entire project. So I use this transition pack to introduce and exit certain elements within the video with the help of compositing modes. Now I'll explain what compositing modes are in just a sec. So if we take a look at the transition packs here, these 2 separate clips, we can see that there are on top of the main video track. The main video track obviously is holding all shots of the cam. But how does the main transition pack actually affect the shots of the cam? Well, that's when we look at compositing modes, and if we change the compositing mode from source alpha to mask, we can see that the actual video of the transition pack has started to take shape and fit into the shape of the cam. But now, once we change the compositing mode and we take a look at the final shot, we can see that the transition pack is affecting the final shot of the cam. Now that's not all I've done to the first clip. If we take a look, we can see that I've added an effect. I've added color grading as an effect. So if we open up the color grading settings, we can see that I've added a slight adjustment to the color curves. Basically, all I've done here is bring out some of the contrast and some of the highlights just to bring out the finer details in the cam. So moving on to the next clip, that being the establishing shot of the Monster Energy logo, once again we can see that I've made use of the liquid transition pack, that being composited within the logo, and I've also added a really trendy, popular text effect, that just being the tessellation of stroked text. If I zoom in here, you can see that I've just copied and pasted the layers. This creates some sort of movement with the text as it moves away from the center. And also, once again, I've added a slight color curve adjustment. This was done to bring out some of the contrast between the Monster logo and the fluid transition pack, as well as to add a little bit of luminance to the Monster logo. So if I scroll down here on the timeline, we can see another clip that appears to start under. And it's this shot here where we can see 2 cans start rotating parallel from each other from the center, with the word Ultra just being slapped on top of the 2 cans. This effect was inspired by Daniel Schiffer, and I'll leave a link to his video in the description below, as well as his channel, so you can kind of see where I got inspiration from. This clip here is kind of just to emphasize the ultra flavor that Monster Energy offers, that being the no sugar flavor. So the main effects that were done to this clip was actually the rotation of the can with the help of an anchor point. You can see from the track motion settings what the movement was from these 2 keyframes. And the last thing I did was add 2 effects, that being chroma key to remove the background from the original footage, and color grading. Once again, the reason I color graded this clip was to bring out the highlights within the cans in the background and just to bring out some luminance from within them. So if we look at these 5 frames that transition from the ultra shot to the opening can, we can see that the transition pack has kind of dispersed from the center, and it created a really cool transition from one shot to the other. This was also achieved through compositing mode, and like I said, all I did was add the multiply mask compositing mode to the liquid transition pack that was on top of the cans. And so the liquid transition pack basically just got masked into the word Ultra and the two cans behind it. So on to clip number 4, which is the can opening shot. Now obviously if we're going to have a video about a can, we have to obviously have a scene where the can opens. Now this was by far the hardest shot to actually get because my thumb kept getting in the way of the can opening, and the actual thing that opens the can, that little metal part, broke. It broke twice. But if we look at the raw footage, we can see that I made use of a string or a cotton reel. And basically what I did was I tied it to the can opener, and I basically just pulled the string upwards and it opened the can. So how did I get the shot looking like this? First, I actually added a chroma key to get rid of some of the background. So the chroma key wasn't enough to remove the entire background. So if we take a look at the video effects panel here, we can see that I made use of a mask. So as the can opened, the mask also moved around the can, but it eliminated the background and still kept the can with the can opener. The use of masks were used throughout the entire editing process. I used it for the first shot, the second, and this one as well. And the main purpose for masks is to eliminate the background and keep the subject or the foreground. Now in some cases like this, where the background wasn't a plain color like green or blue, it's very difficult to use a chroma key to get rid of the background completely. So with the help of a mask and some color grading, I was able to remove the background and keep the foreground. So if you look at the color curves here, I brought out some of the mids so that the whole can is bright and that we can kind of see the whole can and there's not too much fading around the edges. And if we look at the top part here, I also brought out a little bit of luminance from the reflections of the can. And if you look at the LUT option, I actually didn't use any LUTs because the raw footage, it wasn't great, but through a little bit of color curve adjustments, the color grading actually came out really good, as we can see from the final product. So if we look at clip 4, the can opening, we can also see that there are the words "zero sugar" in the background. Now I had to emphasize these words somewhere throughout the video because this is the whole point of the Ultra Monster Energy drink. So if we look at the words "zero sugar" in the background, we can see that they are making use of two things: the multiply mask compositing mode and the liquid transition pack. And just like how I applied the liquid transition pack to every other clip, I did the same for the text. I just added the liquid transition pack down here to the zero sugar text and just added the multiply mask compositing mode. And the final thing I did to clip 4 was add a tiny sound effect of a can opening, which can be seen right here. And I added a smoke overlay, which can be seen down here. I also dropped the opacity by a lot. As we can see, the opacity is at 14%, and I added a little fade in and fade out, just so it's not too in your face, but you can kind of see there's a little bit of smoke when the can is being opened. So in the last 5 or 6 frames of clip 4, we can see that it slowly starts to move to the left of the screen, and then suddenly clip 5 starts to take over. This was inspired by Daniel Schiffer as well as my previous ad that I made for Lipton, which I'll also leave in the link in the description. So onto the last scene that actually has cans in it. We can see that there are 3 cans being used. All I basically did was create the first layer, as we can see the bottom layer here. I created the first layer, added some keyframes of the can moving, and if I click on the crop settings, you can see that there is a very subtle mask applied to it. And the keyframes are just there to make sure that the cans are stabilized and that they are moving on their set axis. And once again, we got our good friend, the liquid transition pack, to reveal the 3 cans, disperse from the center, and then exit. Although, if we look at the color grading settings of the cans, I actually dimmed it down. I actually created less contrast so that the contrast is consistent between all 3 cans. If we look at the HSL sliders, you can see that I've brought up some of the luminance and decreased the saturation. And you can see I've slightly decreased the hue just so the color goes from a dark blue to a very monochromed light blue. I really like this scene because it really brings out the contrast between the Monster logo and the Monster can. We can see that the logo is pitch black with a little bit of gray reflections, and the can detail and the can's design is shown with the liquid transition pack with colors like blue, and a very desaturated light blue, as well as a very light gray. So like I said, the liquid transition pack actually disperses from the center, and this creates a nice entrance for the final monster logo. So if we take a look at the monster logo, all I've done to it is make it slowly kind of increase in size as it moves through the timeline. And then if we look at the keyframes, I've added a smooth interpolating effect just so the zoom in isn't sharp and abrupt. And finally, I've also added the liquid transition effect with the multiply and mask compositing mode to the monster logo so that the liquid transition pack takes shape of the monster logo and creates a really cool entrance for the logo, as well as a really cool and clean exit. And just to be fancy, after the monster logo disperses, we can see my logo just appears, and I basically just copied the same effects from the monster logo and just added it to my logo. Nothing special there. And we have finally made it to the end of the editing walkthrough. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or if you want to see some more editing walkthroughs, leave a like on this video and click the red subscribe button as well as the notifications bell so that you will be notified every time I upload. But once again, if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to check the link in the description to see my Instagram and other social media pages. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.